Hello, everyone. Congratulations to all of you. My name is Anna Felt. I'm the Champions for Change for 2016-2017. We'll go over a few points that we think would be useful for you as you advance in your championship. You have 4 very intensive months ahead of you. And we want to make sure that you get the best out of it, both on a personal and professional level. So while this is just the beginning, we are putting down some points that we think that might be useful for you. But we will also have a Q&A session at the end, so feel free to prepare your questions. And if you feel like we did not respond to them during our presentation, then we can take them at the end. So we will quickly run through some of these points, and then we will proceed with the Q&A. We will also have 2 polls because we want to make sure that we hear from you and what your interest areas are. But feel free also in the Q&A to also indicate particular areas of interest. So first of all, just welcome and congratulations. We will talk briefly about what Empower Women is in more detail that we didn't do during the rally, and a little bit about what it means to be a champion for change. And at any time, as I said, if you have any questions, you go to the question panel, and you can input your questions there. You have already met the team, Empower Women team. It's myself, Anna Felt, and then we have Cecilia, Diana, and Meral also here. And Emad is away at the moment, but you will also be connected with him. He's based in Egypt, Meral in Istanbul, Diana and myself in New York, and we have Cecilia in Ukraine, in Kyiv. We might have said this before, but just to reiterate that Empower Women was launched at the high-level segment of the UN General Assembly in New York in 2013. And so the project is a little bit more than 3 years in the making. What is very exciting for us, and some of you might have been involved, we have just been evaluated, and the Empower Women is now being positioned by the evaluation company as an innovation in social and economic development. And very much part of this innovation is the Champion Program, and how we are working with you and how we are working together in making difference in your communities and running the activism and our energy online as well, both on Empower Women and in social media. So this is very important for us, this program, and we hope that you get as much out of it as we do, because we do believe it's the way to, in line with our vision, to achieve a world where every woman is able to use her voice, make her own decisions, and engage in economic opportunities. So our mission is about our dedication to empowering women to achieve their full economic potential by inspiring both women and men to become advocates, change makers, and leaders in their community. And this is very much about the Champion Program. And we equip our broader membership and the users that have not yet registered with resources, opportunities, and a global platform that facilitates networking, learning, and sharing of experiences. That said, we know that even though our mission is around economic empowerment, that it's we look still at the women's empowerment in a more holistic way, that we know and we are very much aware how it links to other areas. If, for example, you live in a country of conflict, how that impacts if there's a lot of harassment and domestic violence in your country, we know how that impacts. But we try to, at least at the end of the day, to kind of position it under economic empowerment, even though it links to our health, education, and all the other areas that we are working on. So what are the benefits you can go to the Empower Women website and look in more detail. But we think for the Champion for Change program, which is one of the items here, we have seen in the past that many of the champions have felt very empowered by this experience. Many of them have been more confident and been able, as a result, to get better jobs. Some of them have negotiated better salaries, and some of them have actually even started NGOs and companies as a result of this experience. So we, at the end of this tenure, would really like to hear from all of you. We'll go into a little bit more detail, and you will also receive a toolkit by the end of today, where we go into a little bit more detail on our expectations that, for example, during the course of your tenure, that you have clear indicator and that you collect data against those indicators to showcase what impact did you, either individually or in the group that you're working, what are the impact that you have had on women's economic empowerment or more broader women's empowerment. For the projects that you will develop, that you are clear about those, and that at the end you also write a story, because those stories of impact are very, very useful for other champions in the future, but for anyone, what they can do in their local community to make a difference and to contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals and the 2030 Agenda. As you may know, we have a dedicated space for you, for the Champions for Change, where any story or any contributions that you make will go up on this site. So the more of those stories that we get from your experience being a champion, the more we can post on this page. We will share with you this PowerPoint afterwards, but here's the link, and you will get that link also at the end through the PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, I mean, this is about the call for applications, and you're all been very successful. You've gone through all of the stages, and you are now a successful champion for change. But what does it actually mean now? Once you've been selected, are you clear about what it means to be a champion for change? The requirements that we had put out in the application process is that we want to make sure that you're all passionate and active participants in this journey, both online on Empower Women as well as in social media, and offline, and this is where the personal group projects come in. And we know that this group that we have selected, you have shown a lot of passion and dedication to this issue, and that's why also you were selected among the 4,000 applicants. I might not have mentioned, but out of the 4,000 applicants, 170 champions were chosen, and you have been grouped into 3 different groups, about 60 in each of the groups, and you will continue to work on those, but I will talk a little bit about how they interlink. If you feel like you are in the business development group, but you want to do social media, there are interfaces that actually make it possible to do both, even though you belong to one group over another. We expect you to spend about 4 to 5 hours a week. Of course, the 4 to 5 hours a week is completely individual, how effectively you work and how you spend those hours. But just as an approximation, you have an idea on how to be a successful champion requires at least 4 to 5 hours a week. And those hours will be spent on your action plan and implementing your action plan and your project, which I will go into a little bit more detail in a few minutes. We also have in the past seen that some champions, for personal or professional reasons, cannot necessarily continue after their selection. Don't worry, we have a cut-off date of 4 weeks, so if you see that you've been inactive for 4 weeks, then we will propose to you that you join a future group of champions, and that you're given another opportunity to actually spend the full 4 months together with us. We do this because we don't want you to come out with a certificate and not necessarily get the fullest out of the championship. So it's on both sides. We expect you to be active, but we also see that for you being active, you will also get most out of it in the benefits that I talked about earlier that we've seen from other champions. And also to reiterate, there are no funds available. We have seen that many of the champions, because there is no funding available, have also been able to be very creative. And we had, for example, one champion here in the US who had no funds or opportunities to necessarily leverage the funds, but went to different companies and asked them to sponsor. So the companies sponsored the events that she organized, and together with some beverage and some snacks and things like that. So you can always find ways around not having resources, and that's also what we do in the Empower Women team. We have very little and limited resources ourselves, and we always find ways to leverage partnerships to be able to achieve our agenda. So we have talked about the 3 groups. From our team, we have focal points. The business development group is Miral, skills development group is Diana, advocacy and social media is Cecilia and Ahmad. And what we have done is to come up with a model on how we will be working together. So we have the Empower Women team with the 3 subgroups, and in each of the subgroups there will be a number of mentors, I think 6, 7 mentors per group, and each mentor will have about 3 champions to work with. And I think it's up to you how you communicate in your group and how you want to connect with each other. If you'd like to have one-on-one relationship with your mentor, but we also believe that group dynamics can also be very helpful in actually meeting with your mentor as a group. The 3 champions meet together. Of course, it's more challenging in finding a time that works for everyone, but we do think that not only with a mentor who is a previous champion and now a champion alumni, but we think that peer-to-peer support can be even as even important as the relationship with a mentor. So each working group, business development, skills development, advocacy, and social media, will have a number of mentors, and under each mentor the champion, so that you can get the support that you need during your tenure. As I mentioned earlier, they're all interconnected. So for example, the skills development group come up with or identify a good training video, for example, and then you want to get support from the other champions to showcase and to show it on social media. You can get in touch either with the focal point for the advocacy and skills development group, or you can get in touch with one of the mentors. So we will all be supporting each other in this journey. And similarly, if you have the advocacy and skills development group are going to, some of the members will produce videos, and maybe you need some content, and the content could come from the skills development group or the business development group. So see the interlinkages between the 3 groups and not as 3 independent pillars of work. As I mentioned, at the end of today, we will circulate the Champions Toolkit. These are very important instructions. It talks about a little bit more in depth your role as a champion, how to update your profile, which we think it's very important, because if you're now going to be so visible over the next 4 months, we want you to have a professional picture and that you have put in your bio. This is the opportunity to be visible for potential partners, for peers, for maybe even potential employers. So make sure your profile is up to date. It also talks about the use of logos, both UN Women logo and the Empower Women logos. And just as a heads up, the UN Women logo is not going to be used. We have a strict policy on who can use and where we can use the UN Women logo. But you will have further details in the toolkit. It would also talk a little bit about your action plan, how to develop it, what elements should be included, how you work on individual and group projects, some key messages, and also links to our social media channels. For the webinars, we would like to know what would be most interesting for you. We are going to run a poll, and based on the results, we will see what interests you most, and we will prepare webinars specifically for the champions that are not necessarily accessible to the broader community, but just for you. So I would like to run this poll about. Oh, Diana is running the poll. She's running the poll, so it's open. But basically, there are some questions on what you would like to acquire in future webinars. We have 4 options. And of course, in the Q&A session, we could also add additional areas that we have not listed here, but we thought that these could be useful. How to present your Empower Women project in front of an audience. It's about presentation skills. How to make a presentation about the 2030 agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals, how to effectively lead Empower Women projects, initiatives, and teams, and how to write compelling blogs and articles to engage an audience. So these are the things that we think that would be useful for you if you have would like you to respond to the poll. And
46% now, 48.
Yes. So if you can all, I'm going to keep it open a little bit longer. And if you have additional suggestions, we can take that in the Q&A session later. But it seems like the option, I shouldn't influence until we close it, I think. We have 75% who have voted. We're waiting for a few more seconds to get everybody on board in voting. Mm-hmm. 87%. Okay, let's wait till 90%.
Some people also respond via the chat box and question box. So 1343414 are some answers that I received via chat box.
Okay, good. So we have reached 90%, and maybe the remaining 10 answer in the chat box. Yeah, in the chat box. That's totally fine. So it's closed, and we see that the strongest interest is really how to effectively lead Empower Women projects, initiatives, and teams. So we will start with that. There's also, to some extent, and I know you had to pick one over another, so maybe there are other areas that are interesting for you as well. So I think after we will also have a webinar about how to write compelling blogs. So it seems that the SDGs was not as much interest, but maybe we can use that as a theme when we bring up the other topics, and also presentation skills. So it seems like leading the project is high on the agenda, and also how to write compelling blogs and articles. So we will take that on board, and then we'll also see if you have additional suggestions when we come to the Q&A.
Because we're at the topic of SDGs, two of our champions are asking what are the SDGs, how to make presentation about SDGs. Maybe you can clarify, Anna, for those.
So the Sustainable Development Goals might not be as well known, as we have spent basically the past 15 years with the Millennium Development Goals. And you hopefully have heard about the Millennium Development Goals. They were adopted in the year 2000 by, not the goals themselves, but the Millennium Declaration was adopted in 2000. And out of the Millennium Declaration, the UN system developed the Millennium Development Goals based on the Millennium Declaration, the content in the Millennium Declaration, and at the time on the basis of data available. And they concluded in 2015. And what was the big, with the Millennium Development Goals, there were 8 goals, and goal number 3 was on gender equality and women's empowerment. The challenges with the Millennium Development Goals was that they were data-driven. They were not driven by the needs of the world, but rather what was the data that was available to measure progress in the world. So in 2012, the process started in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil with a Sustainable Development Conference. And it was decided that this time around we will engage with a much broader stakeholder group. The Millennium Development Goals were only worked on by the governments, the Millennium Declaration by the governments and the UN system to identify the Millennium Development Goals. For the Sustainable Development Goals, the new set of international goals, we invited civil society, private sector, funds and foundations, the broader development community, and all stakeholders have been involved in conceptualizing the new 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And those are also called the 2030 Agenda, because by 2030 we should have achieved all of the 17 goals. And they have been much more about what is needed in the world rather than what data is available to measure results. So we are also being challenged in now finding new ways of collecting this data. What is relevant to us in the Empower Women community is, of course, Sustainable Development Goal 5, which is gender equality and women's empowerment. And what is very exciting to us at UN Women is that this time around we actually managed to capture a much broader agenda for gender equality. So you can basically Google Sustainable Development Goal 5, and you will see all of the different targets. If we were to do a presentation at another time in a separate webinar, we can go into more details. But today it captures the unpaid care work agenda. It captures the need to use technology to drive women's empowerment, and this is exactly what we're doing with Empower Women. But also we are looking very much at the SDG 4, which is about lifelong learning and education, and how that is important to equip young people and adults with the right skills so that they can get the jobs of the 21st century. And this might also be a topic that we can do for the broader Empower Women community, Diana. And we also are looking at other SDGs that link very much to our agenda, such as the SDG 8, which is about decent work and economic growth. We're also looking at SDG 10, which is about reduced inequalities between countries and within countries. And for us, SDG 17, which is the last one, is also very important because that's where we are really promoting effective public-private, and civil society partnerships. Because we know with this 2030 agenda, we cannot achieve it just with efforts from the governments and the UN system and partners, but we need to bring in the whole community of civil society, business, networks, funds and foundation, and everybody needs to be on the same page with this. So this is the Sustainable Development Goals in a nutshell, but we would be happy if you show interest to go more in depth into this. But we have now a second poll. This is, we know that in the past we've been doing our webinars at the same time. We got some feedback that not necessarily the time that we have selected, 9 to 10, is the best time for all of you. So we want to hear more about what timings work for you. Please note that this is New York time, and that you might need a few minutes to think what is your time. But we know, for example, in Europe it's 6 hours difference, so that would be 4 p.m. 10 to 11 would be 4 to 5 p.m. If we go to Eastern Europe and Arab states, I think there's about 8 hours difference. So we can maybe take a few moments to see what works best for you. Okay, I think we have a good sense. We have 93% votes, which is higher than the previous one. And we see that 10 to 11 Eastern Standard Time seems to be the best for you. So we will move it from 9 and start in the future to 10. Of course, also within your groups, with the mentors and other champions, you can, of course, discuss any other time that works for you. But we will shift our webinars to start at 10 instead. Is that okay with you, Diana?
Sure. Of course, when we will have the specific meetings with the groups, I mean the small one we will arrange based on your agenda and schedule and our agenda schedule. You will be notified in advance. You'll work together with your mentor and the focal point of a group in general. So we assure you that we will try to do our best both for based on our schedule and your schedule. But hopefully all of us will be a little bit more flexible so we can succeed to have a fun time and a useful time together.
Great, thank you. So time for Q&A.
We do have a lot of questions.
Of course.
So maybe I can start with reading some of them.
How can I expand this?
Okay. So how about answering to the first question? Are we allowed to make a page of our personal profile and send the new social media details to you? Example, Clarity Grief, Empower Woman Champion for Change on Facebook. Thank you, Clarity. I think you have this question and we have some similar questions. So the answer is easy and very simple. So you'll receive a Champions for Change toolkit. As Anna said prior to that, the toolkit contains several useful information, and this is rules for you to follow, and also for us to kind of, agree from the beginning on the certain things. We created a Twiban which says that you are the champion for change. Only our selected champions have the opportunity to have this Twiban based on their profiles. So your formal title is Empower Woman 2016-2017 Champion for Change. No other title will be accepted. Normally, we try to remind you always about the formal title. So if we see several mistakes, we will tell you at that moment. But we will appreciate your collaboration. So let's have an understanding. You'll use the Twiban. You'll not create something personal because we have this created and approved with within the organization. And once again, your formal title is Empower Woman Champion for Change 2016-2017.
Okay, so we hope that that was clear. We can also clarify further if needed.
Good question. Suppose we have a UN Women office in our country. What would be the working relationship in terms of rolling out champions' work?
That's a very good question. I think that, of course, if you already have connections with UN Women, either UN Women's country or regional office, or I see also Cassandra has asked about UN Women National Committee or local committee. It would be good if we at UN Women here in New York and headquarters provide that introduction, because otherwise they might not necessarily know who you are and what your plans are. So go through your mentors and your focal points, and we will see to our best of our abilities. Some of our country offices are extremely small and are very stretched in terms of capacity. So in some countries that are larger, it might work, in some that might not. But we know for sure that the UN Women National and Local Committees also are excited to be involved. So let's do it that way, that you contact either your focal points within UN Women or through your mentors, and we'll try to do our best to accommodate and make sure that you get the support that you need. Jacqueline is also asking about the certificate. Yes. As I mentioned earlier, everyone that have uninterrupted championship during the 4 months. 5 months is the including the rally period, which we know that you've already been very, very active. But we only give the certificate to those who have been active throughout the remaining 4 months.
Another question, actually a series of questions are related to the way we will activate during the next 4 months. So Isabel, for example, is asking, how have people created teams in the past? I have heard that people have made campaigns, for example, I'm Woman campaign, and worked with people from all different groups. How did they start the conversation with each other? Indeed. But this year, we changed a little bit the way we will work together with our champions. This is our 5th tenure. We already have a good amount of mentors, all very active, very passionate about the subject and the issue of empowering women. And you know, we decided that there is a moment and a great opportunity for you to connect with all these amazing mentors. So Anna previously during the presentation, I'm just mentioning for those who a little bit came later to attend the webinar, explained how we will collaborate within this championship period. So basically, just quickly to reiterate, you will have a mentor. So you will work in a small group with your mentors. Normally, it will be 3 champions and will connect with 1 mentor. After the webinar, as usual, as we did during the rally period, we will, within 48 hours, please allow us to prepare and to take all this information. I know you are all eager. We will send the recording of this webinar with the attachment, and this will be the following: the Champion for Change Toolkit, the list of the groups that you are a member of. I know several of you selected to be part of different groups because you couldn't decide. It's worth to note that you were selected as a part only of 1 group. So based on the priorities, based on your activities, and so on. So 1 group championship toolkit, and then of course you will have the name of a mentor. The mentor will contact you by the end of the following week, and by the end of December you will have to have your first meeting with a mentor. As Anna mentioned, the way you speak, it can differ. Maybe it's better for you to speak on Skype, or if you want, we can facilitate a BlueJeans link for you, or WhatsApp. Some of them will be lucky and maybe you'll grab a coffee together in the same country. So, you know, this is a great opportunity to meet people who already had this experience. They can help you, they can guide you, and together I think it will be a great trio for us to spend the next following 4 months in having great projects and basically the highest activity ever. Why not?
Thank you, Diana. So there was another question. After we've gone through the toolkit, will we get an opportunity for another webinar that will explain the information in the toolkit? And I think this is because the toolkit will be used differently depending on what group you are in. So I would suggest that in your working groups, business development, skills development, and advocacy and social media, that you inquire with your focal points and your mentors to, if you feel like that is needed. So it's customized towards, because some information is very general, and I think you will understand it very easily, but maybe the information that you will need more is how to do the project, how to do your action plan, and I think that will be better catered within the group that you are working in. So Rejoice, I hope that answers your question.
Question from Hassan, Anna, maybe you can respond to this. Can we receive confirmation letter regarding our nomination? I think it will be helpful for securing sponsors.
Mm-hmm. So how have we done that in the past, Diana?
Well, Hassan, first of all, the link to empowerwomen.org, it is a confirmation. So we already specified that we have a dedicated space to the champions. In the next 2-3 days, your name will be indicated under the present champions. So just share the link, and here is the confirmation. In the case you will decide that your project is to organize an event and you will want to approach a certain sponsor, you'll need to speak with your mentor and put together a concept note, and then we need to to kind of address it together to make sure that the issues and the companies, we do have a very serious due diligence with the partners that we collaborate. So once we agree on the concept note, on the agenda and the idea of the event, we will write a confirmation that will help you to approach and secure the sponsorship. But we cannot give you a general letter without knowing what will be the event, for what purpose we will use it. It's against our rules as an organization.
Thank you, Diana. Isabella is bringing up the attendance to CSW 61. Many of you might not know what that is. CSW is the annual conference in New York, the Commission on the Status of Women, which is an intergovernmental body. Basically, they meet every year. It's all the governments meet to discuss different topics. What is very exciting for us in the Empower Women team is that over the next few years, the focus will be very much about women's economic empowerment. In March 2017, the topic is women's economic empowerment in the changing world of work. And this is maybe something that we could also have a broader webinar about, the topic itself. And for those who are planning to come to New York by themselves, we have no funding to provide for people to come to New York. But if you, for whatever reason, you live in New York, you live in the US and you're close by, or if you are part of a delegation from your country, some countries, delegations are entirely government officials, but other, especially for the next year when we are focusing on economic empowerment, there might be an openness from the governments to include more people from civil society, maybe even the private sector, in their national delegation to New York. So, but if you're coming to New York, let us know. You can write to us on empower.women@unwomen.org. I think we have the email address also posted somewhere in the toolkit. And we can see how we can organize a get-together for those champions that will be here.
Another question, and I think it's an important one and addresses all the concerns about the monitoring and tracking of weekly and monthly activities. Who will do that and how you'll report? Basically, you will report on the weekly, monthly, two ways. Weekly to your mentor, and then monthly when we will meet all together. For example, Cecilia will have a webinar with her group on advocacy and social media. So together with your other champions who are working with your group, you will share with Cecilia in 5 minutes what did you do during this month, what are the updates, and so on. Of course, we will collaborate also via emails, the primary communication with a focal point. But our mentors will always keep us informed about your activity. So we will have a serious monitoring and tracking system, not for the purpose of, controlling, but rather with sharing the experiences and learning from each other.
Betul is asking a question if we can apply for ambassadorship funding for local projects. I'm not sure exactly what type of funding that is, but I suggest that any of these kind of more detailed questions, that you bring them up with your mentor and your focal point, and we can see in the local context what that actually means.
There are some questions regarding, can we make some t-shirts with the logo of Empower Women, and can we use logo for this? And I want to bring in Cecilia, who is the best expert in explaining you all about the logos and about regulation on that. And of course you have some of the information on Toolkit, but she will she will address this question now and more regarding the logo.
Hi everyone. I'm so happy to join as well and to know that you're all here. Okay, so regarding, thank you Diana and thank you Anna. So regarding the logo, well, much of the information is on your toolkit. You always have to consult with us, particularly with me or Ahmad, and the usage of the logo. In regards with making t-shirts, it goes the same way as if you need a letter for funding. In order to know, if you're going to make t-shirts, we need to know what kind of event it is. We need to know who are the partners. Especially because, we are a big organization, we really need to know what is it that you're working on specifically and where our logo is going to be and everything else. So before you think ahead of making t-shirts and all this kind of collateral that will showcase empower women, you should also think about your proposal and why would you need this. I also want to mention, although it's already on the toolkit, that the logo should never be altered. It should always look exactly like it is looking on your screen right now. You will be able to use the in-support logo as well, but as mentioned before and as it was mentioned there in the rally, even for doing visuals or any kind of material, you should always first consult with your mentor, and if your mentor is not available, or it's your mentor thinks that you should seek out even more guidance, your mentor will contact me, or you can contact me or Ahmad directly.
Thank you, Cecilia.
I'm just looking here at the different questions and to make sure that we capture everyone. Kelvin is asking what kind of certificate will be given to champions. Not sure what different kinds of certificate there are, but basically it will state the fact that you've been an active champion during the full period from the time you started the rally till the end, which I believe is 10 of April. And it will, it's a certificate of having been a champion for a particular time. So we do think that that would help you if you apply for other kinds of opportunities, either other volunteer programs or a job or whatever it might be. When Deepa is asking about when do we submit our action plan and what you will do as a champion. I think that the earlier you get started, you will see in the toolkit later today the framework or the outline of what we think should be in your action plan. And the sooner you start filling in the different sections, you can also have a meeting with your mentor. We will have a webinar with all the mentors and go over their responsibilities on Thursday. So if you can give it till next week to connect with your mentor, and we will also circulate who is your mentor after that webinar, so that you can connect. But you can already, as soon as you get the toolkit, you can already start looking at what kind of things that you like to do, and that you're ready for a discussion with your mentor. What you want, if you'd like to work with other champions and mentors, yes, we encourage this very much. What we will do currently on the page, you will only see the names and countries of the people that were selected to be the champions. But what we are working to do is to update them with the links to everyone's profile. So for those who would like to be contacted by other champions and mentors, make sure that you have your social media contacts or your email on your profile page so that you can be contacted. And that also means that you're open to be contacted by others. So I hope that answers your question, Isabel. what happens after the champion program? Tim asks. After the champions, of course, we encourage you to continue to be active members of Empower Women. You will graduate from being a champion to a champion alumni. And in the future, you will also have an opportunity to continue to volunteer your time and also possibly to become a mentor for the next group of champions. So it's really up to you how much time you have and what you like to do afterwards. But we hope that all of you will be lifetime champions for women's economic empowerment, whether inside the program or as an alumni. We hope that this time with us will make your commitment to this agenda stick forever.
Doris, it's not a question, I have a comment, and I think it's important to address it. I love the question of UN Women involvement. I suggest Empower Women team to let the teams in countries to know about it, so it's easy for us to do the project in our local communities. Doris, we always share the information with country offices and regional office. The fact of the matter is that UN Women offices might be very small at the country level, just 2 or 3 people sometimes. So while they are very happy to collaborate with you, sometimes they will not be able to host you, for example, at UN Women office due to the space, constraints, or maybe they don't work particularly on economic empowerment, but more, for example, on political participation, HIV, and so on. So it all depends on a country context. Your mentor, of course, will be able to guide you through this. And we, during the monthly webinars, can address if any further question on that. But just to want to mention that you guys should not have high expectation, because on kind of, working hand in hand with country offices, they have their country projects. They always are eager to collaborate when the chance, but your main mandate is within Empower Women online and offline space.
So we have encouraged all of you to do the same. Mariam had already checked on the page, and she said that her country is incorrect. So, and how to change that. So I suggest, Mariam, that you write to empower.women@unwomen.org and just tell us what country it should be. But for all of you to go in on the page where we announce the championship, to make sure your name is correctly spelled and the country associated with you is also correct. What we did for some of you, because you had indicated 2 countries, we picked just one of them. So we hope that is fine, but if you'd like to change that, that is fine too. Just let us know by sending us an email.
And also on the profile, you sometimes put one name and then application, the same name but with more names associated. For example, surname, family name, double family names. So it's good to have a consistency and to let us know, as Anna mentioned, which is because unfortunately we do not know all the tradition and the popularity for each country. So it's easy to change as long as we have a correct information.
One more thing I would like to add is that if you are not using the email which you used for your application form and you have changed the email, also please write to empower.women@unwomen.org letting us know which is the email that we should use to contact you, because we will be sending out emails from time to time and you might not receive them if we don't have the right email on file.
Thank you, Cecilia. So just to clarify, I don't know, maybe this question came before we talked about the logo, but just to be clear, we're talking about the UN Women logo. We would like you to use the Empower Women logo, but before you do it in a systematic manner, that you check with your mentor and your focal point. So the one that is a no-no is the UN Women logo. Empower Women logo after discussions with your mentor and your focal point. So we make sure that we also stick with the mandate of Empower Women. Yeah, I think we are running out of time. I'm just looking quickly to see if there is anything else that we haven't covered.
While you do that, Anna, I would like to reiterate that the UN Women logo should not be used by any circumstances. It is only can be used by staff on the organization. So we ask you to please not use it under any circumstance. And you as champions are also our guardians, if you want to say it like that. So we also hope that as you can see your peers not using either Empower Women logo correctly, you also advise them how to use it and help each other. And even if they are at some point using the UN Women logo, remind them that there is no permission to do so.
Thank you. Also to just pick up on how you can collaborate together. Once you see who is your mentor and who is in your group, of course you can connect to each other. What happened in the past with, for example, the I Am Woman team, which one of you referenced, was that they connected through social media, and somebody knew a champion alumni and who then guided them through, and they kind of connected basically through social media and on the Empower Women platform. So feel free to create your own working groups to make sure that you get as much out of it as possible. I think we've gone through all of the questions, Diana. But for any more detailed questions about your particular situation, feel free to connect with your mentor. Once we have announced them, and we want to wish you all the best of luck. And
before closing the webinar, just a quick reminder. We know and we are responsible that to share with you all the information. I know some of you, who didn't succeed to participate or who left at the mid of the webinar want to have the recording immediately. It's not a 5-minute process, and it complicates a little bit more the, communication, because you have to take time to write emails. We have to take time to kind of respond. While it's, it's very easy for us, it's also challenging to prioritize. We would rather, respond to some concerns that will help with your championship. So within 48 hours, you'll receive all the information, recording, Champions for Change toolkit, the list of a group you are part on, and the mentor who will guide you during the next 4 months. Thank you for this and for your collaboration.
Thank you so much. And thank you also from the entire Empower Women team. Enjoy the day.